This is the second episode of The Power of Eight. My name is Jen Smith, and with me is Pollyanna Blanco. Hello, Pollyanna. How are you today?
Hi, it's an honor and a blessing to be here with you, Jen.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about the space of possibilities, and this is chapter 1 of The Power of Eight. In the last week we talked about what we were doing in this series. We're going through the book The Power of Eight, and you're welcome to join us every week. We're going to go chapter by chapter. We're going to talk a little bit about what's in each chapter, and then Pollyanna and I will talk about our experiences as it relates to that material. So this week, the space of possibilities, it was about these large intention experiments that the author was putting on. And she goes through the chapter and talks about how the setup of these experiments were done. And then after the healing experiments with a group of 8 people, the participants the next day would come in and talk about what they had experienced. So it was really quite interesting to read through here because I can relate and I can verify that I too have had many of these same experiences. So maybe we talk a little bit about the techniques that were used. So,
Definitely. It's interesting too, because what I liked in this chapter, she talked about how she was focusing originally with larger groups, and then, as you mentioned, she moved to the smaller groups, and they also focused from were originally focused on the global level of sending healing intentions out to the world, and then shifting into looking at sending healing intentions on a more personal level to people too. And so I really enjoyed, hearing how she did that, and how she also started noticing things too, because I guess when it's on that global level, sometimes it can be easy for the logical mind. We don't always see the direct impact of it. And so that's where sometimes the logical mind can interfere with, the trust and faith in that, actually having the impact that has been documented that it does have. And so it's just interesting, like the macro level and then the micro level that she gets into in this chapter.
yeah, I think because her intentions are how do we use this experiment to like heal the world, right? But let's start small first, and how can this be utilized for healing people? So this was really an experiment that came to her. Um, the amount of people 8, I believe that just came from let's try 8 people and see how this works. And it was not necessarily healers, not necessarily 8 healers. It's just 8 people getting together with healing intentions. So that's how the setup was. 8 people, and then one person that would get the healing intention. And she went through, and I'll read this straight from the book. It's on page 7. It said this technique began with a little breathing exercise, then a visualization, and an exercise in compassion to help people get into a focused, energized, heartfelt state.
And what's so interesting too is the point that you mentioned about the fact that they're not self-identified as healers, right? That the beautiful message takeaway that I received when I read that is that sometimes can be a bit of a mystique around, well, this person is a healer and this person's not a healer, right? And that this is something that's intrinsic to our very, essence, that we have the capacity to be in that healing presence, and to have a technique like you just shared that she was using in the groups of 8 to help people. I know she talked about focus and concentration and then communing as a group to be able to direct those intentions to a person, maybe twice a week, in the groups. And then the results that they were noticing too were, and those were really exciting. And just such a beautiful reminder to us every day that, I mean, the healing arts, we're both healing arts practitioners, and there are different techniques you can learn, and there's different levels of also conscious awareness that we each have moved through our own journey, as every practitioner does, working on ourselves and also working on clients. And we evolve and expand through that journey. And at the same time, while there can be specific trainings and techniques and whatnot and approaches, what's so nice about this protocol that she's using, these techniques that she's using, is it's so accessible, and it helps any of that resistance that I need to have an impact, to recognize the impact that we already maybe even already are having in our lives with other people, and just making it more conscious, right? Making it more deliberate, more intentional, and also directing it for the highest good. Because I think in our world right now, and I'm sorry, going off on a little bit of a thing, but this just bit of inspired speech coming through. As you know, I shared with you before we got on this call today that I had a very interesting day where I was on the receiving end of some strong energy, and I knew that there was a greater lesson in that. And I think, and I know, and not just think, but I know deep down inside that the greater lesson in that is the awareness of the impact of how we show up for ourselves and others, and that it does, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think a lot of people are becoming much more aware of it. They're interested in that. Obviously, anyone who's watching this right now is curious about that. And it's wonderful, because this is how we are birthing and anchoring the new earth. It's this realizing and remembering and embracing how powerful we are, and that we can actually co-create with that power and direct and channel that power for so much good. And when you think about, you just look around sometimes at how sometimes that can be misdirected and used to create all kinds of strong concentrations of energy in different places in the world that are, take on a lot of energy. And yet, imagine if that were shifted and used for such healing power. To harness that kind of energy in the world is just like, now we're talking unbelievable miracles, but it's like, because they seem unbelievable right now, because we see so much of the other sometimes, in the world. And it's when you have a gathering and you read a book about gatherings of 8 people, which, and you see the power it has on someone who is receiving the healing intentions, you start to, at least for me, I start to really reflect on how important our choices are and how we show up, right?
Yeah, it's really important. And I think going back to what you were saying about the story today for you is, I think many people don't recognize, you know, the energies they are putting out, how important it is,
Mm-hmm.
the positive mindset, the energy of love and compassion, and it's just educating people. I believe is where we need to, where we need to direct these things too. So I don't think it's anything intentional that people are doing. It's just a not knowing.
Yes.
Um,
At the core, I believe as human beings, we all want to live in a happy, harmonious, peaceful place.
mhm.
And I feel like it's just, in order to get there, like you said, it's the mindset, the belief system that limits what that can look like and be like for people until they experience something different. And then that opens them out to new possibilities. So, what's so nice about these groups, too, that she's talking about in this chapter, is that opening for a shift, that opening for that is, in itself, is a miracle, really. If you feel into, when I feel into that sense of just, it's not something we intellectually know, it's something we experience, is the power of, because it could possibly, for someone, defy everything they've been taught to believe and think about how you get better, or how you heal, or how you feel happier in the world, right? And it just kind of like opens out every sort of like side of that box and flattens it out so that all the light can get in, right? And all the, it's just so many more possibilities are available,
Yeah, absolutely. The whatever we talked about, the not knowing part, it's if people understood that the energy that they put out is also what they receive, I think that would open up a lot of eyes for people. And this chapter so beautifully demonstrates that, on how the healing energy and intent was for one person in the power of eight, and how that uplifted everyone, even the person who was giving the healing. So I think the techniques, I'd like to go over that a little bit. Techniques of a little breathing exercise. So, we've been in groups before where we start with that. We even start with that before the show sometimes, is some breathing exercises, because, and it's just, some deep inhale and exhale. It relaxes the body. It really promotes positive energy, and relaxes any resistance that we may have, just to let our words flow, or our life flow. So the breathing exercises are important. And I do this too before any healings in my healing room, as I have people relax. They just lay on a massage table. Let's relax. Let's do a few cleansing breaths before we get started. Um, and that's just to allow them to relax, and be able to receive the energies and the healing.
Yeah.
The next was visualization. So, anything about the breathing or visualization that you want to add?
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the visualization. I think I'm trying to remember, help me remember, maybe I missed this point, but I think she does talk about it, because I know I've worked with clients before who, I'm a very visual person myself, but not everyone is. And some people, I just want to mention that right now as we're talking about it, because I know I did work with one client in particular who said she needed help using her imagination. Like, she really struggled with visualizing. And so this is where I feel like working with the power of intention is great too, because even you can also substitute visualizing for sensing, and simply just intending. And then over time too, with these practices, like you mentioned, with the breathing and the being opening up to receiving, this can start to activate the energy centers in the body too, that release, the what feels like someone saying to themselves, I can't visualize anything. And over time, the third eye can start to open up more, because the energy is flowing and we're able to receive. And we're also bringing our attention inwards, so that we can calm ourselves down enough to focus our energy, so we're not all out here, sort of scattering and, sending our energy out in many different directions, as happens for, quite a number of people in their busy lives. When we bring it back in here and calm it down, and just, open to receiving, and then sending that intention out, and then receiving, just being in that energy, that state of presence, then really over time, that's another miracle. It just, the shift that begins to happen from going within, from being able to more naturally and easily and gracefully shift back and forth between, sending our awareness out there and then bringing our awareness back in here and finding that equilibrium, that balance, that flow between the two experiences of being in the world, and still connected to a sense of that divine presence, that some people call it the higher self, the expanded self is sometimes how I refer to it, just whatever you call it, right? That sense that there's more beyond just sort of what appears and seems to be just happening out there, right? Just to be able to start to open that out more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the flow, the relaxation, the visualization. I just did a class on this, how to start using visualization, how to tap into your inner world, um, and that requires focus and calmness and the will to just kind of clear the mind. Um, and I know whenever I first started learning really about manifesting, consciously manifesting, that is one of the, I would say, dormant abilities, because we all have it, that I had to kind of wake up. So for me, the visualization was more about, okay, I had an idea of what I viewed the world to be. Like I had this big picture, but not really projecting it on the screen of my mind. But as soon as I try to gather pictures of what I was thinking, and I would put it on a vision board. I would just stare at that, and then I would try to project it on the screen of my mind, and I just practiced that every day. And then amazing things started happening. So I think it's the focus, it's the calmness, it's the willingness, it's wanting to be able to do that, because we all have these abilities, and it's just a matter of, I kind of call it like a mental muscle, like kind of exercise, do these different techniques to wake up that dormancy, that those abilities that we have.
Definitely. And 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 I feel it's like in my own journey, this is how I would describe it too. And it's like a fully embodied presence, right? So it's like there's sensations, there's the being able to visualize, because again, working with the chakra dance too, it's kind of it's multidimensional, right? Like you're bringing it into all these different sensorial, that's the embodiment experience, and somatic, ways of being too. And so I know in my own experience too, when I visualize things, um, it's having also it's having all of the aspects of self on board, like the emotional, the mental focus, the the feeling it, the sensation. I know years ago, I was getting ready for another major dance competition, and I literally, yeah, just I someone put the bug in my ear, and so I decided to try it. And I literally wrote out what was a minute and 30-second routine, sort of like a verbal description of every move and everything. And then I recorded myself speaking it into a voice file, which so when I actually listened to it in slow mo, it was probably more like 4 minutes as a kind of guided visualization. And I even had moments where when I was physically rehearsing the routine in the studio, I might have had little moments where I'd blank out on the routine, or I'd make mistakes or do things a little wonky, or even have a little bit of hesitation if I was about to do a lift or something like that. And so in those moments in the guided visualization, I'd have affirmations to myself and just affirming the outcome as if it were already done, as if I already wanted it, as it, as I had, as my, sort of just my intention of how, you know, good it felt as I was, going in or coming out of the lift, that kind of thing. And I would have been really kind of almost shy if anyone had heard my audio recording at the time, because it was so personal to me. And I gave myself, complete unbridled, permission to just, affirm all those things. And when I listened to it, another suggestion someone gave me is to really, because initially when I was doing the visualization, I was doing it true to time. And what was suggested to me to do was to actually slow down the visualization into slow-mo, so that as I was seeing it, I was feeling it kinesthetically in every muscle of my being. And so I was hearing the positive affirmations. I was seeing it. I was feeling each movement and how each movement flowed and connected into the next movement. And I was noticing, I was like doing everything to support the positive feelings of it already being done, as I had envisioned it. And I remember doing that so many times, over and over and over and over again. I saw colors. It was Technicolor. It was everything. And then I went to do the performance, and that was the one out of 3 years where I won the whole competition. And it actually even qualified me for one in the US that was like on my bucket list. So it's amazing, the power of visualization. And I love what you said too about how, and what you shared about how in the beginning it was something that you practiced too. I did, in the beginning, because I think sometimes people do that and then they're like, oh, it doesn't work for me, right? And then they toss it out of their toolkit. And it's I love how you put it, it's dormant inside all of us, and we just really need to, be open to listening and sharing how other people experience it, and and then learning from our own experiences and those of others, and playing with different ways to really make it as rich and as full a visualization as possible. And it's like anything, we have to also give it, I was listening to something this morning that really inspired me. It was about the gap and the gain. It's a book by Dr. Hardy. And I know we're talking about the other book right now, but I just feel like it's really relevant. And I was sharing this with my students today in my class, and it's when we are, and I think this might be one of the little sort of, this is a little aha moment I'm having as I'm sharing it right now in real time. It's like something, a little light bulb went off. So this is like raw and unedited. It's that when we're visualizing things, there's a part of the mind that wants to, it's like the visualization is the ideal scenario. And so he was talking about, if we're comparing our progress to the ideal, then we will not be happy, and happiness will be something we pursue outside of ourselves. If we compare it to the gain, in other words, the improvements or the learning we're gaining as we're moving through the process, the creative process of co-creating our intentions, then we actually invite in more happiness, more fulfillment, more joy, because we're staying open to what's being shown to us. We're staying in the present moment. And I feel that's a really important part that I know you already know as a healer. And then I know, and this is, I think, another sort of missing link when people talk about visualization or law of attraction, is that you have the ideal or the visualization, and you feed it, you nourish it with the visuals and the focus and the sensations, et cetera, and you surrender it. Right? Because that piece of the surrender is the trust that everything that's showing up as you are in the now moment, holding the space for that possibility, is actually moving you closer to it. And that whatever seems to be perhaps like a bit of a time delay is actually divine timing at work. And that's where the trust piece comes in. So she doesn't talk about it in this chapter, but as a sort of an add-in, because she does talk about the amazing, results with, there's one client where,
Yeah, Before we move on to the clients, I wanted to touch
Yeah.
on what you were saying about the chakra dancing and visualizing that, because whenever I was listening to you, I thought, well, that's manifesting at its finest right there, right? So the way I look at manifesting is we do the visualization because we're creating that possibility. There's infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So there's many things out there waiting for us, but it's first created in the formless through the visualization, and what we want. We pull in all of our senses to do that, the
Mm-hmm.
feeling, even the taste, the touch, and it's more of this imagination visualization that we're putting out there. And that energetic space exists. It's already there. But now we just have to catch up with it. So we got to stay present and we got to become aware of the opportunities that are coming to us in the present that will step us along to the opportunities that we've created.
Ooh, I love that.
And so, yeah, so today, whenever you know, we go about our day and I just think, oh, well, I had to provide a solution to a problem today. And I just think to myself, oh, well, this is like old news because I already know what's coming.
Yeah.
And so those are different ways to look at it as well. But we're manifesting it's real. And you just got to trust the process and relax and allow it to flow in.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And those are all really important things to note and to remember about it, because yeah, it is a process, right? And it's about staying present through the whole process. I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And enjoying the journey. Like it's exciting to see how is this going to come to me because it comes
Exactly.
in so many different ways.
And that's the thing too. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's something I've noticed. I'm pretty sure you have. Like just that oftentimes I'll have like that sort of that intention, that visualization, that I sort of living from the end, as Neville Goddard would call it. And then I nourish it with attention and energy. And like you said, I follow the breadcrumbs, the spiritual breadcrumbs. And then sometimes the way it outpictures, there's a little bit of like the universe puts a little bit of a spin or a little bit of a tweak on it. Sometimes oftentimes it's beyond what I would have even conjured for myself, right? And at the same time, it's like leaving a little bit of space for the universe to, you know, make a few little tweaks and adjustments. Like I know this isn't from doing artwork too, that I have the idea, the concept, the visualization in my mind, and I'm looking at that blank piece of paper, that blank canvas. And then as I'm going through the process of, developing what's going to go onto there, or just allowing what, if it's more spontaneous, what wants to come onto the page or the canvas. In the end, it's often a little different than what I first imagined or envisioned, and yet it's so much better. So it's like, I think that's where the beauty of it comes into, is that just being open, and the sort of the care and feeding of all of that is, like you said, being in the present moment, and just holding fast to the vision, and yet being here now, as it's sort of that's the sort of the caramel secret, as they would say.
Yeah, and the other important part is being in the energy of abundance. You want
Yes,
it because you know it's there. It's not that you need it because then you're in a lack energy. Oh, I need this. I need this. You want to be in abundance energy.
yes,
And so I think some tricks are like you want it because you know it's there. You don't necessarily need it, so you kind of release the outcome of it, but you still want it. That's how to stay in that more of an abundance energy than a needing energy.
That's a very good point, because it can be easy sometimes too. I know I did a vision, a good friend of mine years ago took me to a vision boarding workshop. And I think this is where some people get tripped up with vision boards too, is that it can become almost like because people talk about a wish list, and it's like, I want this, and even what I was listening to this morning too, the thing about the gap, right? Like, a lot of us can get stuck in the gap if we're not in that abundance mindset, because it's easy, and that's where the energy so subtly shifts from the miracle presence into the space of the gap between. We're so close, it's just, and that's the miracle, like, that's the shift, right? From just tweaking our awareness from being in, like you said, I don't have this and I want this and I need this, to it already exists. It already exists. And getting to know who that you that exists with it is, being open and curious to that. Saying, I wonder what decision she would make having that. I noticed myself using that the other day, where I was like, one of the things on my bucket list is drink more water, right? And at work and teaching, it's like, I want to drink a lot of water. I also need to be present in the classroom. I don't want to be running out of the classroom all the time as my body's adjusting to drinking more water. So it's a bit of a conundrum for me sometimes. And yet I just said, I was poised between grabbing my bottle of water and taking it into the classroom or not. And I said, well, the future me, that is not really future me, it's just me here now, but just, we have that linear sequential, but just call it the me that I am today, that is, the me that drinks water, is going to go for that bottle of water and trust that it's going to work out. You know what I mean? So, and it did. And I felt great. I felt, hey, not only did I align with that truth, but I think that piece really helps us to make choices that match. So I love that point you made. That's such a key piece. And I'm so glad you shared that with everyone today, because that really informs the choices in the now moment. If we know that it already exists, and it's not, some place that we have to get to, it's here now, it's just our choices activate that right here now, then we're presented with some different options. And we can also be, because another thing too, okay, this is getting me excited. Because another thing that came up too, and I was listening to it today, and this ties into what we're talking about, is, and that I think he shared something about our present determines our past, and that caught my attention. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And it is, I feel like this is exactly what we're talking about, because there really is no past, present, and future. It's all just the eternal now. But we have this construct of time as a teaching tool. And so our present self is constantly making meaning out of what happened before, this now moment, in the now moment. So if in this now moment we're telling ourselves, well, that didn't work out for us, or that did work out for us, either way, it could go either way, right? Then in this now moment, that's what we're choosing, right? That's what we're choosing to create from. And the question then goes back to, is drinking that water in alignment with the me that is on that timeline that says, I am all hydrated and I drink a lot of water every day? Or is it just to anchor it in something concrete? Or is this the me that says, I wish I were drinking more water. I need to drink more water. I want to drink more water. And instead, it's sort of like there's a gap between here and there. So yeah, and actually, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
There's so many things we could talk about right now, because there's so many things coming in about timelines, and yeah, we could probably talk about that on another episode too. But it's those are fun. Those are really fun conversations for sure.
They are. Well, there's the part, I started mentioning it, and I know you wanted to mention it too. Do you want us to share the part about Don's blog and the healing experience he had in there? I think that's
Sure. Yeah.
because what I loved was the part here where that was, again, I referenced it a little bit earlier in a general way, that there was a gentleman that, in a nutshell, just to keep it simple, was receiving healing intentions that were being sent to him on a twice weekly basis by the group. And he began to keep a diary of his condition. And he wanted to feel better, and he started to feel better during the intentions being sent to him. He said it was not an immediate healing, but my well-being was better, and I was in less pain. And then 8 months later, he wrote, when he'd gone for his semi-annual doctor appointment with his rheumatologist for the very first time, after his doctor asked after him, he could say that he felt absolutely fantastic with only occasional pain. And this was a quote, I am still fused together, but I felt I was spending more and I was way down on the pain scale, the best I have ever remembered feeling. And so even his chest moved when the doctor put the stethoscope on his chest too, which he hadn't been able to have that experience, and his doctor witnessed it. And he started saying, I feel like a normal person again. I did not have a spontaneous healing, but the intention experiment set the wheels in motion for me to feel so much better. And it also caused me to recognize how the way I thought affected my health and even the world around me. So it really speaks to the power of not only intentions, but the power of community and the power of our interconnectedness and support and love, right? Just love, just to know that we're not disconnected and alone in the world. Just to know people are thinking of us and wishing us well, I think is really, really powerful,
Yeah, I think Don's story about the healing, that the intentions that were sent to him, I mean, that's just going to spiral him upwards, because now he's got the healing intentions. He's starting to feel a little bit better. Now he has some hope. His mindset's changing. So he's going to continue to heal and heal even on his own, which we can do with the power of our mind as well. It's just, it's really just holding on to those higher belief systems and letting some of our other belief systems or our thoughts, kind of letting those go, because in his situations, he may not have had that hope that he needed before. But the power of 8, the healing intentions, kind of boosted him up, where he felt better, and now he can continue to climb that healing journey.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things though, because they did the healing intentions one day, and then the next day during these experiments, everyone who got the healing intentions directed towards them, they got up in front of the group and talked about what had happened to them. And so, just a few things were there was a woman that had suffered from insomnia with night sweats, so she had enjoyed her first good night's sleep in years. There's so many different stories here. Uh, Marcia suffered from a cataract like opacity blocking the vision of one eye. And the following day, after her group's healing intention, she claimed that her sight in that eye had been almost fully restored. Now, being in the healing room, I see these things all the time with healing. Um, even that specific situation there, where the cataracts, where uh, the client had told me that he just saw light coming in, and then he could see better out of his eye. So all of these things with the power of intention, with healing, um, if we could get this out to everyone, we can start healing so much quicker. Once everybody realize the power of this, and the power of just getting good intended people together, like the power of 8, and just sending the healing intentions from, from the techniques that this group began with, which was just a breathing exercise, visualization. And that visualization is really, um, even as a healer, I just visualize the clients being healthy and vibrant, and that's the visualization that I put out
Mhm.
during a healing session. Um, and it may be so. I always ask for their intention too. So we visualize that in a positive atmosphere, and I have them visualize that in a positive atmosphere, as if it's already happened. Yeah, and then the focus, being focused and energized, and in that heartfelt state. That's all the energies you need um, to begin healing. So,
Yeah,
were there any other stories that stuck out to you on the different healings that happen?
well, I feel like you covered a lot of them, and I feel like it just all of them speak to this amazing capacity for us to have this. I almost want to, how we have the internet, we have the internet. I've heard that phrase before, right? And, where do we get these concepts that we put out into the world? They're mirrors back of the inner technology that we actually have inside of us. And I know I've heard Greg Braden talk about that too, how we have the inner technology. And so right now I feel like in this sort of very digital age that we're in, it's just remembering. I think it's so important for people to remember that, and not put, like, keep that, again, it's all about balance, right? We're using technology right now to share this, and at the same time also remembering it's not an either or, but also remembering we have this inner technology, and harnessing it and tapping into it and tuning into it so that we can be the change we want to see in the world. We can really, like you said, create that positive ripple effect in the world, and really, that's where, as human beings, we're all in relationship, not only to each other, we're in relationship to the plants, the animals, the planet, the weather, the stars, the elements, everything. And it's to live in harmony and balance with all of it, and to feel that at oneness and that interconnection. And it starts with just having, I love the technique that she talks about, because it's non-denominational. You don't have to subscribe to a belief system or a religion. It's just so accessible. It's just helping people to tap into and tune into the capacity that we all have within us to get into that miracle frequency, to get into that field of quantum field of infinite possibilities, and let it be fun, and let it be joyous, and let it be like, little kid in a candy shop, and I almost feel like it's like a restoration of our innocence, of knowing the truth of who we are, and free from all the other layers, of that we may have accumulated in our journey, so that, and that's I think where the healing comes in too. It's that does restore that, it helps to dissolve all the layers, because it's that relaxation piece too, right? So it helps to relax us into that giving and receiving state, which is the abundant, state of living.
And so you talk about the layers. I kind of describe that as we have to let go of. It's really just getting to the core of who we are, and we're not. We already are that. It's just letting go of. You describe them as layers, and it's like these the things we've been conditioned with,
Hmm.
which we've all been conditioned with, because everybody's just doing the best they can, right? And we have to take our take the responsibility back to uncondition ourselves, to realize what a powerful divine creator we are, that we all are. We're all healers.
Yes,
It's
yes.
everyone is, and I mean, and this even proves it with the power of eight. It's just what is it? And we're all manifest. We're all manifesting every day as well. but you can gradually increase that to be more conscious, more of a conscious creator. So everything just kind of dovetails together on manifesting, healing. Um, yeah, so it's wonderful. We have a
Jen,
few minutes left. There's a lot of stories in here on healing, and I can relate to each one of them. So definitely read. If anyone's joining us today, I would highly recommend this book. We're just at the beginning, chapter 1 now. So we're referring to pages like 9 and 10 of all the different healing stories. But there was the last paragraph. I wanted to make sure that
okay.
we went over this
Yes.
too. Is that okay?
Yeah. I'm so glad you remembered to mention that because I had it underlined too. So thank you. You've gone in some really interesting, fun directions.
So, yeah, on the very last page here, one of Rosa, uh, she sent, her group sent her intentions for her underactive thyroid. That was what she was wanting to get healed. And her response and her quote was, I felt an opening in a tunnel and connecting with the universe. And if I received this, I would be able to heal. It felt like I was giving and receiving healing, like I was healing myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
I do too. I love every part of it. The opening in a tunnel, connecting with the universe, because that's really once you know, diving into the inner world, the inner the world that we can all access within ourselves. That is, we are connecting with the universe.
Yes. And
It's
it's
there. We can see everything. We're tapping into the universal mind, infinite intelligence, source, everything. It's all right there. We all can do it.
yeah, it's like a big well that we all drink from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I'm just noticing on the side here there are some comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I did not see them. Do you mind
and
sharing
I'll
them?
actually, and it's fun. I use a little bit of my Spanish here, although it's not Spanish. I think it's Portuguese from Brazil. Hola, sou de Brazil. Uh, and I want to say muchísimas gracias, but con permiso, that's Espanol. and uh, and then there's another comment here from the same person from Raphael, beautiful name. A reference. I'm just sort of doing my best to paraphrase and sort of interpret because it's very similar to Spanish. Meditation is to be in harmony with the universe and harmony with oneself. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. The dance, right? The cosmic dance of at oneness. Oh, those are beautiful
Yes.
messages. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing that lovely energy and those lovely comments. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate you.
All right. Very
Oh, and
good.
Jennifer, are we going to share with everyone about next time? And what a beautiful segue too, thanks to this wonderful being who chose to be here right now, live with us, about the invitation that we were talking about putting forward for our next
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. We would love to invite people to come on, and if they would have any questions, to join us live, and we can have those discussions. So we want to make this a little more interactive, and we'll post the links so you can join us backstage. And if you'd like to be on with us, we would love to have you.
Yes, because we were talking about how we'd love to hear about people's miraculous experiences and healing experiences. And even if there's a certain um, healing modality that you've experienced that you found great success with. I know, Jennifer, you were sharing about a friend of yours with Tai Chi and how it had had such a huge impact on her life.
Mm-hmm.
And just because oftentimes too people are curious about, I wonder if I should try this, or I wonder if I should try that. And just hearing from someone else here in our community of what that was like for you and what that made possible for you, what it opened up for you in your life it's a wonderful way to share and also send, healing, because it opens up, it gives people permission to, you know, to feel and what might be possible for them, and to also hear more about and learn more about maybe even some healing modalities that maybe they've not heard of or heard anyone having had experience with and from before. So we're excited to hear about that too. So we invite you to share.
Yes, yes. I would love that. I love hearing people's experiences, and I think it helps everyone whenever we can speak from our authentic standpoint and experiences that we've had on our own. So, yeah,
And
much encourage that.
what I'm thinking too is, maybe, I know last week after the show, I was sharing with you a couple of newer modalities that I experienced, even though I've been trained in quite a number of them. And I know you were sharing something similar with me too. So maybe we can kick off next week's show and let everyone know that we'll share a couple of our experiences with different healing modalities as being recipients of them, speaking
Mhm.
and then we'll open the floor up to other people who would like to share what's been working for them. And then I guess we'll move into chapter 2, right?
Yeah, chapter 2. So, chapter 2 is the first global experiment. So, that is what that's about.
Oh, I love that chapter. That was a great chapter. I've already got so many dog-eared pages in that chapter. You see, like lots of dog-eared pages.
Book underlined.
Hmm. Definitely.
All right. Well, thanks everyone who joined. And this is on our YouTubes, on Meet the Light YouTube, on Natural Energy Healing YouTube, which is my business of healing and being a manifesting coach. And then also on Pollyanna's uh, YouTube channel, which is
Yeah.
called Multidimensional Muse.
Muse. Yep.
Correct?
Yeah. And definitely, there you can find other videos around, chakras. I'm a chakra dance facilitator, and I'm also an intuitive guide. I'm an author of 2 books, and basically, I focus on sacred self-care. So that's I help people to really restore the sacred to their self-care, uh, through quantum energy healing and chakra dance and subconscious reprogramming. So
Well, very good. All right. Well, thank you, Pollyanna. It was great talking with you this afternoon. And
a
thanks for
pleasure as
those that have
always.
joined us. And we will see you next week. Thanks and bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.